According to the University of California, Irvine, it takes an average of 23 minutes and 15 seconds to recover your attention after being interrupted. I'm Luke. Welcome to another episode of the Vision to Victory podcast, where we discuss becoming the most authentic you so you can live with purpose, passion, and joy. If we're constantly being interrupted and distracted, when are we going to actually get our most important work done? I want to take the next couple weeks and talk about this topic. Fix your focus. Next week, we're going to talk about perspective and how when we shift our perspective, then we can change our lives. And today, I want to talk about silencing the noise, eliminating the distractions so that we can focus on what matters most. Let me give you a quick agenda for our episode. The distraction economy. We're going to talk about the psychology of distraction. We're going to get clear on what matters. I'm going to give you some practical tools, and then we're going to talk about making it sustainable. So let's start with the distraction economy. It's no secret we're in a world that is engineered to steal our attention. You know this, I know it, and if it's not enough that the whole world is vying for your attention between social media and somebody trying to sell you something, then we've got our own internal voices that distract us as well. All the things we need to get done, all the things that we haven't done yet. This is the engineered world that we live in. And here's the key thought about the distraction economy. Most people think they have a time problem. They actually have an attention problem. Most people think they have a time problem. What they actually have is an attention problem. So let's talk about the psychology behind distraction. Our brain craves novelty. This is the slot machine effect. It's the dopamine hit that we get from checking notifications. This is hardwired into our brain. Furthermore, when our brain experiences stress, when we feel overwhelmed, or when a task seems maybe daunting, we trigger avoidance. So I can relate to this so much personally. You know, if I've got a big task to do or something that feels like I need to put a lot of mental energy into it, then I find myself finding every little thing that I might need to do. And here's what you need to know about the psychology is that multitasking is not a skill, it's a productivity illusion. I'm gonna do a little myth busting here. I'll say that again. Multitasking is not a skill, it's a productivity illusion. Here's the key takeaway from the psychology behind distraction. Distraction often feels productive. Email, Slack, checking reports, endless planning, all can masquerade as work. But just because you're doing a lot doesn't mean you're getting a lot done. Again, distraction can often feel like work. Those things, email, checking reports, that sort of thing, when really it's just keeping us from getting actual work done. So what do we need to do? We need to get clear on what matters. How do we do that? We need to understand the difference between urgent and important. When I first heard this, it was such a novel concept for me. Like, this has changed my life and how I spend my time. So urgent are all those things we just talked about, right? Email, text, the things that say, hey, respond to me now. And important might be, for me, writing content for this podcast. It's important to me and what I do. And every time I try to write content for this podcast, I inevitably find every little thing that I possibly could answer. You know, my email, it could be the meeting that I forgot to set up, whatever the case might be. We're wired to, again, go for that slot machine effect, but we need to understand the difference between urgent and important. Another thought for you, when it comes to focusing on what matters and getting clear about it, one of the easiest things that we can do is ask ourselves this question. What is the one thing that if I get it done today, I'll feel better about everything else? This has been so helpful for me as I go through my professional life, and this applies personally as well, but for me, as I go through my professional life, I find myself constantly wanting to shorten my to-do lists. I constantly want to shorten them because I have learned that more doesn't equal clarity, it equals confusion. So here's the key thought when it comes to figuring out what matters most. You can't protect your focus if you don't know what you're protecting it for. I'm going to say this again. You can't protect your focus if you don't know what you're protecting it for. This is why we have to be really clear on what's important to us and what matters, what deserves our best time and energy. And then it makes it easier to say no to other things. Okay, let's talk about tools. Let me give you some practical tools that you can use with your time. These have been so helpful to me, and I would encourage you, and I'll tell you again at the end of the podcast, but I'm going to encourage you to just pick one that you can use. Number one, time blocking. Time blocking is simply just allocating time for activities. This is a little different than scheduling. I use this personally. This takes into account our energy. And, for me, things like creating content take the most energy. And so I do that when I have the best, what I would consider my best energy. So for me and for most people, that's late morning. Late morning, if you're like me, you maybe get up fairly early. My best working time is usually between like 8:30 and 11 in the morning. So time blocking, great tool. Number two, environment. This is such a big one. If you're in an environment that is constantly distracting you, then change your environment. Change your environment. I have learned that there are different types of work that I like doing in different environments. For whatever reason, for me, again, when I'm creating content for this podcast, it's not necessarily helpful for me to just sit in my office. I need to be in a place that's got bright light, that makes me feel kind of awake and alert. And for whatever reason, that for me, is a couple different places in my house, or I could maybe go outside or something like that. Whatever it is for you, get in the right environment that helps you do the work that you need to get done. Next, the 2-minute capture rule. This can be so helpful. I can be old school, and I'll often have Post-it notes in front of my computer for taking notes. And what I've learned, without fail, anytime that I have set time aside to do the deep work that I want to do, then something will pop in my head, something I have to do, something I forgot, whatever it is. And so what I do is the 2-minute capture rule is just write it down. Just take a second, write it down, and then you don't have to worry about forgetting it. And then you can just go right back to what you're doing. This is so helpful for me because it gets it out of the worry, anxious, I'm forgetting something, and puts it in the category where I know that I'll get to it whenever I'm done doing what I'm doing. Number 4, transitions. This is a really small one, but again, for me, it's helpful. When I'm going to do something that requires my best energy, I usually like to get myself a cup of coffee. If it's late, I'll get myself decaf. But it just tells my brain, okay, it's time to focus, time to do work, time to put the phone aside. That would be another small thing that you could do that might have a big impact, which is turn all of your notifications off, set your phone aside. This is just creating the transition for your brain that says, I'm going from what I was doing to what I'm going to do now. Finally, we touched on this a little bit earlier, but work with your biology. Again, this could be spending your best energy on the stuff that requires it. And if you know that you've got some other work that doesn't require that much focus, you still need to get it done, then block time for that as well. And then, again, we'll talk about this in a second with making it sustainable, but there's so many other factors that contribute to your biology, what you're eating, how much you're eating, all of those things. We want to make it as easy as possible to do the things we want to do, and as difficult as possible to not get distracted and do the things we don't want to do. So here's the key thought here. Willpower is finite. Systems outlast willpower every single time. I'm going to say this again. Willpower is finite. systems outlast willpower every single time. Okay, let's talk about making it sustainable. So again, we're going to start with our biology. Rest. You cannot overstate the importance of rest. This is good sleep. It's taking breaks. Again, for me, if I am trying to do something that requires a lot of focus, I know that I've got about an hour tops before I need to take a break, right? I need a snack or I need to stand up or do something. There's no point in fighting this because productivity declines if I try to work for 2 hours straight. That second hour is going to be far less productive than the first hour, where if I would have just taken a break, maybe even just a few minutes to just relax, stretch my legs, grab a snack, then that next hour will be, similarly productive to my first hour. So take rest. Number 2, boundaries. When it comes to sustainability in life, you have to be able to set boundaries. Boundaries for your time, boundaries for your energy. And this goes into the next point, which is learning to say no. A huge part of dedicating focus to the things that matter most and making a sustainable way of life is saying no to things that don't matter or that take away from your focus. Again, this has been another big learning lesson for me. I've shared the story once before, but when I was learning to fly airplanes, which I love to do, it took a lot of work. It took a lot of studying. And one of the things that I had to do, I don't even like social media very much. Most of the stuff that I would listen to would be something like this podcast, right? Something that's helpful for me. But I can find myself scrolling on YouTube occasionally and go down rabbit holes. And the problem is, as we discussed earlier, if I'm focused and then I just do that for 30 seconds or a few minutes, then it takes a while, again, according to that study, 23 minutes for me to regain my focus fully. And so I made the decision when I was learning to fly and doing all of the studying required for it that I was just going to delete YouTube off my phone. This is a great tool. I recommend, whatever it is for you that is likely to just pull you away and steal your attention, you can get rid of it. We have to be able to say no, and we need to understand that every yes we say is a no to something else. So if you're saying yes, in my instance, if I'm saying yes to YouTube, then I'm saying no to studying for my flight test, let's say. And those priorities seem obvious when I say them, but we so often choose the yes to the notifications, the yes to the social media, the yes to the slot machine effect, if you will, instead of having good boundaries so that we can focus on what really matters. Finally, when it comes to making it sustainable, we need to revisit our priorities regularly. I do this very often, and I could honestly probably do it more often, but the takeaway is this: there are seasons of life where certain things will require more focus than others. You know this. There are seasons of life where we get our education. Maybe you're going to school or going to college. That will require a certain amount of energy and focus, and it's a priority, right? Obviously, when you are done with school, then maybe that time shifts to work or family, whatever the case might be. We need to revisit our priorities to make sure that they align with what we're trying to get out of our lives. Here's the key talking point when it comes to making it sustainable in your life. It's not about grinding harder. It's about protecting your time for what matters most. I'll say that again. It's not about grinding harder. It's about protecting your time for what matters most. Okay, let's recap. This is so important, and I hope you feel the weight of it. We have to learn to protect our focus in a distraction world. Here's our 3 takeaways from this, and I hope that you put these on a Post-it note, do something, because if we can keep reminding ourselves of these, it'll be so helpful when it comes to protecting your focus. Number 1, Distraction is engineered and psychological. It's not a character flaw. Number 2, clarity on priorities comes first. Tactics come second. And finally, small, consistent environmental and behavioral changes beat willpower. I'm going to say that last one again. Small, consistent environmental and behavioral changes beat willpower alone. So here's what I've encouraged you to do. Pick one of these strategies that we've talked about, whether it's time blocking or the capture, write it down, whatever it is, pick one and start using it today. I promise the better you get at silencing the distractions and protecting your time, the more you will start to realize your goals and to achieve what you want your life to be. But in order to get there, we have to protect our focus. I want to end with this quote. You don't need more time in your day. You need to decide what matters and eliminate everything else. I hope this was helpful for you. If it was, share it with somebody, like, subscribe, and I'll talk to you next week.